It's my pleasure to welcome you here to the Clark Howard Show. You know, our mission is to serve you with advice and information that empowers you so you make better financial decisions in your life. And today, you know, I love to travel. And after the tragic crash in Washington earlier this year, other incidents, many of you are nervous to fly. I had a call from a relative. 2 friends also called me saying, hey, is this okay? Should I be doing this? I'm not a safety expert, but I got some stuff to say about that. And also, I want to tell you how you can save big bucks on discount airlines. And I want to share my experience doing that. Also, the latest on used car prices. There's some stuff you need to know. So, as I said a second ago, I'm not a safety expert. And obviously, there's been a spate of things that have gone on in the air. The tragic collision at Washington Reagan Airport, and then the Delta plane, wonderfully no loss of life when the Delta commuter plane landed and then skidded down the runway upside down in Toronto. And you see that video, and it's like a miracle that no one died in that. And a lot of people at base are nervous flyers. And so right now that's led to people calling me and saying, what? So all I can tell you is that when you look at the stats, it is clear as could be that flying commercially is crazy safe, unbelievably safe. And what has made this such suddenly a present issue is we hadn't had a fatal crash in the United States in a really long time, going back to, I think, 2009 near Buffalo. And I think that was when it was. And so to have this stuff all happen in a compressed period of time obviously makes people nervous. But I can tell you, when I make the decision to go out and get in a car and drive it, statistically, I'm in so much more danger than I am any day in a commercial airline. It's not even close. So I can't speak to the specifics of what makes an airplane safe. My son is a pilot training to fly for the airlines, and I don't understand the stuff he talks about. I mean, it's just beyond my ability. I don't have a good science brain, but I can read the stats, and I believe that it remains the safest way to travel. Although I read a rebuttal on this the other day from someone writing an editorial about why train travel is safer yet than airplanes. But we don't have a lot of trains in the United States. I did something the other day that I posted on our social media. Well, actually, I didn't. Grace of our social media team posted these things. And it went crazy on social media. First video within hours had over 1 million views because of what I did. I voluntarily flew on Spirit Airlines from the East Coast to the West Coast. What happened was I had to make a quick trip with almost no notice, on 3 days' notice, to Los Angeles. And in the market I was flying, which was Atlanta to Los Angeles, Delta dominates that market. Cheapest coach ticket I could get was $649. American flies nonstop in the market. They were $559. And Spirit flies nonstop in the market. And there's been publicity recently about Spirit having a new enhanced first class. They'd always had something called the big seat, which was a first class seat, but you got nothing with it. And now they took that and they made it a beefed up product with free beverages, including alcohol, and not a meal, but a nice array of snacks and free carry-on, free checked, all that stuff. And it was $223. $233. And I was like, wait a minute. $650 on Delta, $560 on American, $230 on Spirit, and the Delta and American were coach class, crunch class. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. So I expected, with all the stories about Spirit, fist fights at the gate, everything goes on. I was like, okay. And I've flown Spirit in the past, but not in a good while because the experiences were not always so great. And shockingly, it was just one flight, one day, one event. It was a really great flight across the country. And it was like a real comfortable, big first class seat. And everything was as advertised. So Spirit, just emerging from bankruptcy, they've had a really rough ride, and they're trying to not be the airline everybody loves to hate, and time will tell. But more and more, as American, United, and Delta consolidate market share around the country, and then we've got, of course, Alaska, JetBlue, Southwest, a lot of the action for the lowest fares is going to these smaller discounters I've talked about, like Allegiant, Frontier, that I still love to hate, and then Breeze and Avelo. And these players are taking not huge market share, but more and more mind share and market share. And so when the fare is too high on the traditional players, it's worth it potentially to experiment. It's up to you. But it was a very good experience for me, and I am going to do it again. And by the way, I got to tell the Southwest thing. If you love to travel and you want it to be really cheap, best deal going out there is the Southwest Companion Pass, where all year long you can bring somebody with you for free. I travel so much. I've had the Companion Pass for my wife now. This is the 20th year. So she's my carpool dummy. She always goes with me for $5.60 for the security charge or whatever it is. And that's it. Every flight, she can go with me free. And so right now they have a deal through the end of March. If you get a variety of Southwest cards and you charge $4,000 on it the first 90 days, you then have a companion pass that's good to, I think it's till next year. I think I'm trying to remember what the eligible period is for the free travel for your companion. I should have known exactly what the date is.
While you're looking
through
at that,
February 28th, 2026. So yeah, as soon as you qualify, you get a whole year almost, maybe 10 months by the time they validate, that you can bring somebody with you every trip, everywhere Southwest flies, for zip.
Also, I just want to mention our website, clarkdeals.com. They send out travel deals in their regular newsletter, but they also are sending out special travel newsletters now with lots of airfare and other deals, and they've just increased the frequency on that.
And why have they increased the frequency?
Because there's a high demand.
Yeah, because the open rate on those travel deals, huge. People are really into wanderlust, really into travel. There was a big belief after COVID that there would be this, what they call it, the post-COVID bump or whatever they called it, the revenge travel. And then it would go back to normal patterns. It seems that once people got used to traveling a lot, they have continued to travel.
Well, speaking of that, I have some travel questions
Of
for you,
course you
Clark.
do.
Clifton in Missouri says, Clark, you are a seasoned traveler and expert. I have a question about European river cruises. We've never been on one, but are planning a trip in 2026. There are so many out there, and it looks like the ships are all about the same. We can spend as much as we want on the experience, so which one would you recommend? We're active 60-plus-year-olds and foodies, and we like special and unique treatment. I want a gym on board, and my wife loves hiking and adventure outings. We've traveled a lot in Europe and know our way around, so it's really about the cruise experience. Now, Clark, don't go all cheapskate on me. You're not the one paying for it. I love the show, and I really do value your opinion.
Okay, so we got to talk, Clifton, because this is a very specialized area. And even though you're a very experienced European traveler, you've never done a river cruise. And so you have Viking that dominates European river cruises, and then a bunch of other smaller companies that are not generally names that are going to be known to you and me. But if you go to a cruise specialist, maybe a cruise-only agency near you in Missouri, or a traditional travel agency that has a very experienced cruise specialist, they're going to know about a lot of the specialty river cruises, and they're not all the same. I promise you, there's real significant differences. There are cruise-only agencies that post a lot of YouTube videos teaching you about various river cruises as well as traditional cruises. You need to sit down and watch those with your spouse, look at those videos, inform yourself, and then go sit down with either on a what are the things people, Zooms? That,
Video conference.
I even forget Zoom now because people used to Zoom all the time, and now they don't anymore. But anyway, a Zoom meeting or better, an in-person meeting to discuss and talk about the options with different river cruises.
Because you've never been on one, have you?
Never gone. Well, yes, I have been on a river cruise. It's been a long, long time, though, and I don't feel current.
Right.
But more than a traditional cruise, with a river cruise, you need that expert until you've been on a number of them.
Chris in Texas says, my wife and I are taking a 9-night cruise for our anniversary later this year. It begins in Rome, stops in Naples, Florence, Portofino, Nice, Provence, and in Barcelona, finishes in Barcelona. This will be our first time in Europe. 2 questions. What type of documents, fees, etc. do we need to complete before traveling? And do you suggest we carry any cash? We don't know if everything we do we can pay for with our credit card, as well as what the tipping culture is where we're going. We're going to be spending some time doing excursions in some ports.
Okay, first things first. Make sure that your passport has 6 months remaining on it from the first day you land in Europe. Gosh, so many people have paid for cruises and lost the whole value of the cruise when they go to fly, and their passport doesn't have 6+ months of validity remaining on it. Second, you're going later this year. You don't say when later this year. There's a new ETSA requirement. I think they're going to call it ETSA for Europe, going into effect sometime the second half of the year. We don't know the exact date yet. It is possible it will be punted back into 26. But I can tell you the United Kingdom put theirs into effect already because it's not part of the EU anymore, so they did their own. And so many people are getting turned away that were going to Europe and they didn't have their ETSA for England and they can't go. So you want to keep watching for that. The ETSA is cheap, but it has to be done and has to be done in advance. And, of course, we will publicize at our end when the ETSA for Europe goes into effect, like we did with the United Kingdom. For tipping crew, you're going to need euro to tip the crew at the end of the cruise. And you want to get those euro when you're already in Europe at an ATM. You want to make sure that the ATM card you have allows you to do withdrawals in Europe fee-free. And make sure you do not have them clear it in U.S. dollars. That'll be a question on most ATMs in Europe. You want it cleared in euro. That's how you avoid a 10% junk fee. And with credit cards, you want to know which credit cards don't charge that you have already a foreign currency junk fee, and the ones that don't are the ones you want to use. And again, anytime you're at a merchant and the terminal will ask you in many countries, do you want it cleared in euro or in dollars? Usually they default to dollars. You override that. You always want to clear in euro to avoid the 10% junk fee, or approximately 10%. Did I miss anything?
I think that's it.
And I've been on the cruise. I went the other way. I went from Barcelona to Rome. Wait, have I done it both ways? I'm trying to remember. It's great. The itinerary you've got, you're going to love it. You should have an absolutely wonderful trip.
Vicky in Alaska says, my 13-year-old son is addicted to your show since we listened to you during our morning drive to his school. I hope you're enjoying your new schedule. And I wonder if Christa can make another program for Thursdays on another topic like travel, so we don't have to find another podcast for our morning drive. A couple of people have suggested that, but I am no travel expert for sure.
No, why don't you try to do this?
Okay. My family of three.
What is this? Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. I don't feel qualified.
Wait, you're COO of our company. You've been at my side since 1997, every day 99, right? I think you're trying to get me to shut up. I think it's a worthy experiment. We could do a special edition.
We'll see.
Oh, that was a no. Can you tell when something's a no? And those of you on the YouTube show seeing Christa's face,
if I felt I had value to add, I would try it. So
Okay.
I'll think about it. I will think about it.
All right.
Vicky in Alaska's question to you is this. My family of three is making our first trip to Europe in May or in June of this year. It's a 3-week trip. We plan to fly to Frankfurt, drive to the Netherlands, Belgium, France, Switzerland, Austria, and Germany, and fly back from Frankfurt. We've booked a car, and our itinerary is ready with all hotel bookings. Since it's our first trip, I'm unsure about the best way to get rental car insurance. I have a Capital One Venture X thanks to you. Getting insurance from the car rental place would be a ripoff. Is there a better way to pay for car rental insurance? I read somewhere that I can get car rental insurance from a third party. I'm unsure how to do it or if they cover several countries that I plan to visit. I couldn't find that info at clark.com. And how do you handle car rental insurance when you drive in Europe? And there were other questions too I couldn't fit in here, but people wondering, what rental car company do you use when you travel to Europe? Like lots of rental car questions.
Yeah, again, this goes back to what I said at the beginning. People are traveling like mad around the world, around the U.S., and especially Europe. Europe is seeing demand with Americans coming 12 months a year. There used to be much more seasonality to it than there is right now. Capital One Venture X is primary. The Chase Sapphire Reserve, primary, when you use those for rental car coverage. American Express's premium products, secondary. There's an enormous advantage with the Capital One Venture X that you have, or for others who have the Chase Sapphire Reserve as travelers, in that the rental coverage they offer is primary, meaning you don't involve your own insurance company. The credit card company handles whatever damage you may cause to the vehicle. Then there's the secondary question. What about liability with a car rental? Because although in Europe they're not suit happy like we are, you could always suffer from liability for injuries that you might cause to somebody else or damage to their car or whatever. then you're usually still dealing with your own insurer. You want to make sure that your own insurer covers you when you are temporarily in a rental car outside the United States. Most do, but most isn't a good enough answer. You need to make sure you're covered by your own rental car company for what Venture X does not cover you for. And I've got on Clark.com, I have a guide to car rental insurance, how it works, what you need to know. I have another story on credit card car rental insurance on Clark.com. Put those terms in the search bar to read our full briefing on this. Speaking of cars, and have a great time in Europe, by the way. I didn't say that. And watch your speed with the speed cameras, because let's see, which of these countries have I gotten a ticket in for speed camera violations? Oh, Austria and Germany. Okay. And when have I gotten a ticket? Parking ticket? Germany, France, and the Netherlands. So everywhere except Belgium, I've gotten a ticket for something when I've been there. And just know that pay attention to those signs, pay for that parking, and be prepared for the possibility of getting a ticket for something. Coming up ahead, though, I'm going to talk about something not funny. What's going on with used car prices? We got to talk. The car market has been through such disruptions over the last 5 years as a result of the COVID supply chain disruptions. And here we are. How many years are we out of the COVID emergency? And I'm talking about it still affecting car prices now, 5 years later. Okay, odd reason. Okay, got a couple of things going on. First, the new vehicle market, the mix of vehicles that manufacturers are sending to dealer lots are finally starting to become more affordable. The hottest part of the car market now are vehicles being sold below 30 grand. The slowest part of the market is anything skewed at the upper middle of the market, which is where the automakers were really cleaning up during the shortages of new vehicles that we had for a long period of time. And they were piggy. They kept making the product mix wrong even once the supply of vehicles grew. And now automakers have an uncomfortable average day supply of new vehicles. So the product mix of new vehicles is shifting to be at the more affordable side of that. So let's talk for a minute about used cars. Used cars are suffering right now in my sweet spot in the market, 3 and 4 year old vehicles. And the reason is that there were such shortages of vehicles made in 21 and 22 that now coming off of, I'm going to cuss here, coming off of lease, there's far fewer vehicles coming into the used car market off of lease. So even though used vehicle price, average price has come down a lot from the peak they were in because of COVID disruptions, there's a bubble in price right now on those 3 year old and 4 year old vehicles, making it much tougher right now for a used vehicle buyer, which is 80% of the market or something close to that in a typical year. So this is going to remain a difficult year. And when will all this normalize? So it's a process, and it will be gradual. The new vehicle market will continue to create a more affordable mix of vehicles. I don't doubt that at all. The new vehicle market will be a gradual process. The used vehicle market with this 3 and 4 year old vehicle bubble we're in will become more normal in 27, doing the math. 27 is going to be the year that the used vehicle market will not have exceptions where I say, well, if you're looking at this age of vehicle, the prices are still going to be inflated, so you got to go younger or older. I won't have to say that 2 years from now, but next year will also be disruptive for what has historically been the sweet spot in the market, the 3 and 4 year old ones. Christa?
Michelle in Georgia says, I'm currently in need of a vehicle. I'm considering a used car. My question is, you recommend Carfax as well as diagnostic inspections. I heard your warning to beware of vehicles that have been resold that were involved in the North Carolina hurricane. Is the Carfax data sufficient, or is an actual diagnostic also required?
Diagnostic required. The reason is that a Carfax report, let's look at it this way. If a Carfax report says that a vehicle has been flooded, and you can see a Carfax flood report for free, which is really nice they make that available, then you know I don't want that vehicle. But not all of the flooded cars are going to be reported on Carfax, which is why if it does come up as a flood car, you're done. But if it doesn't mean you're safe. So that's why you still want to consider having that inspection. Well, I would say you want that inspection as part of the process of buying.
John in Florida says, I have a question about USAA's SafePilot program. I've been very happy with their service over the years, and I don't want to change carriers, but I'm looking for ways to save on my premiums. We have 2 young adult drivers, but even with good student discounts, the cost is very high. I spoke with the USAA rep who told me there's a 10% savings just for signing up for SafePilot and up to a 30% savings at renewal. I asked if the information could also be used to raise premiums, and she said it will never go against you. Do you think that's true, and what benefit do they get from this if they don't use the information to raise premiums or drop coverage? Is it that people using the program are incentivized to drive more safely because they're trying to get a discount and know they're being monitored?
Okay, so these programs of having the monitoring in your car are all about having usage-based pricing. You accelerate quickly, you hit the brakes very aggressively, you do rapid lane changes, you speed. They're able to use all these to set rates. I don't know how the USAA works, that it only rewards you and doesn't have any punishment aspect that the rates become variable. I would read the briefing on USAA.com rather than trusting what you were told by the USAA rep to see if, in fact, it actually does say in writing that having the driver monitoring will only lead to lower premiums and will not lead to higher ones. If that's in writing, you can be comfortable with it. But the reality is the take-up rate of usage-based driving systems is going up. For a long time, it stayed in tiny numbers of people. I think we've gotten so used to not having privacy in our lives that people become more comfortable with having driver monitoring systems as well as monitoring for almost anything else. And that's why the take-up rate's higher. In addition, auto premiums have been escalating way beyond the rate of inflation for factors I explained last month. And so people are focused more on what they can do to get those auto insurance premiums down.
And we do have a whole article about this at Clark.com. It's should you allow your auto insurance to monitor your driving?
I'm glad it's a whole article, not a half article.
Well, you know, we don't actually do half articles. Thomas in Georgia says, do you still recommend carrying only liability insurance for cars 10 years or older? For example, a BMW Z4.
Oh, what a fun car. You know what that is?
I don't.
Oh, it's a wow. Okay. So I love the way you phrased the question, because as a general rule, a car hits 10 years of age, and that's the point at which the numbers will probably support you going liability only, because your car will have fully depreciated out. You start looking at something like a Z4, though, likely low mileage on it, and may have a value in the marketplace that would make it worth continuing to insure. That's why the 10-year rule is check this out. So my formula that you may have read in my story, Clark.com story on this, where I explain it. If you have an insurance premium that exceeds 10% of the remaining value of the vehicle, premium per year for collision comprehensive, that's the point at which you've hit that trigger that it's usually a good idea to dump collision and comprehensive and only have liability. On the Z4, particularly if you're running low mileage each year on it, because often a Z4 will be a what they call a weekend car, a good weather car, you may find that the premium is low enough versus the value to continue to insure. But that's the ratio that I look for to make that decision. And I want to thank you so much for joining us today on our podcast. And I look forward to serving you the next time. Know all week long we have free one-on-one advice for you. It's something we've been doing for more than 3 decades. And to get free one-on-one advice, just go to clark.com/CAC. That's the Team Clark Consumer Action Center. And you're able to see how to get that advice and what hours available to you for you to get that one-on-one free advice. Because everything we do, newsletters, websites, what I do on TV, if you're in one of my TV markets, if you're in one of my radio markets, it's all about you being empowered with knowledge so you'll save more, spend less, and avoid getting ripped off. Have a great rest of your day.